Welcome to the Union Township Board of Trustees working session meeting. Is Justin ready? Okay, I'm assuming that's a yes. Okay. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, great. Thank you for all for being here very much. And Mr. Campbell, let the record reflect that all three trustees are present. Move on to our very first item on new business for paving, pavement control index testing, and paving plans. Ms. Ayers, go ahead with your presentation.
Thank you, sir. This evening I wanted to take some time to talk about pavement and pavement control index testing, or PCI testing. Earlier in this year, we approved a contract with a company to go in and do a new PCI test for the township. When we are rating, I mean, everyone always wants to complain the roads are not great around the township or that there are particular issues in their neighborhood. In order to get an assessment of what roads need to be done or what the status of our roads is, you solicit a third-party company, engineering firm in this case, that goes through and tests and rates all of the roads in the township that we maintain and provides a report that actually rates the roads on a numeric rating as well as a qualitative rating. Just for your reference, in the last few years, we've spent about $700,000 to $900,000 per year on paving. In leaner budget years in the past, I know less paving was accomplished, reasonably so, as the budgets were lighter. But with every year we have a lighter budget, we're not able to do as much paving, we fall a little bit more behind on the schedule. So one of the things I'd like to discuss tonight is where we are currently with our pavement and for some potential solutions for doing some catch-up. If you're going to see, this is what was produced from our PCI test. Excuse me. They rated 142 lane miles for township roads, and they break those down into a numeric rating, which you're not going to see here. Frankly, it's too small to even get displayed at any point in time. And then this visual rating that breaks roads down into either excellent, good, fair, poor, or failed. We would love to have 142 lane miles of excellent. I will tell you traditionally that is not what you will see. You'll see a bit of a bell curve by which you'll have lower numbers in the excellent and failed, and then it bell curves into the middle with the majority of your roads hitting in the fair quality. You'll see here we have 16 lane miles that are considered excellent, and then it'll show you in left highlighted in blue where those roads are. We have 22 miles that are rated good, or 15% of our roads. Those are noted in green. We have 50 lane miles of fair, it's about 35% of our roadway. And then we have 45 miles of poor, it's about 32% of our roadway. And then 10 miles that have been listed as failed. Again, it is not atypical to see a little bit in each category. My only concern here is that we skew a little bit more towards the fair to poor, where I would like to see it skew towards the good to fair. But it is traditional that you would see that type of bell curve where everything is in a different status of repair. As we indicated, our current budget for 2024 calls for about $900,000 in paving. That is about what we've been handling the past few years in paving budget. According to Mr. Taylor and our numbers from last year, we're using an estimate of about $200,000 a lane mile for paving costs. That is up in recent years due to the cost of asphalt, labor, all of the supply chain issues the country's had lately. What I'm looking at tonight is a potential increase in 2024 for about $2 million worth of paving. That would be 10 miles. That is significant as you go back to our PCI testing. We conveniently have 10 miles of roads that are in the failing category. What I've tasked Mr. Taylor with is looking at a potential budget for our $900,000 worth of paving and a budget potentially for $2 million that would get rid of the vast majority of this failing road. The idea is we have an independent test. Could we use that to assert what truly our worst roads are and then start chipping away at those slowly? I would love to be able to repave every single one of these roads, but it is financially impossible given our budget. So let's take what we can and utilize that this year to help do some catch up and get rid of what our worst roads are. We will discuss it on our second topic, ARPA payments. We have about $1.88 million left of unaccounted funding. I'm going to have some proposals for you about how to utilize that funding and a little bit of our general fund budget to make up that $2 million. But what I'm looking for tonight as we go through these discussion topics, and probably better addressed on the second one, is to say, yes, we're comfortable with using ARPA funds to do some catch-up paving in 2024 to the tune of about $2 million. And that is what I have on this topic, sir.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Ayers. Okay, let's open it up for public comments, talking about our road pavement, specifically on this specific topic. Anyone that would like to speak on our public roads and paving? Any issues at all, concerns, thoughts? Going once, okay. Seeing no one, gentlemen, open up for the board discussion. Mr. Becker, any comments, thoughts?
Yeah, what I'm looking for, and maybe you sent it to me electronically, Ms. Ayers. If not, what I would like to see is the list. I guess ideally, I would like to see in an Excel spreadsheet, and you may have sent this to me, is every street in Union Township and how it's rated.
I did send that to you
And-
yesterday.
Yeah, there's how many streets in Union Township?
It's about 142 lane miles they tested.
It's about 565.
565?
It's
565 street names,
Yeah, streets.
142 miles.
Okay, so all 562 streets are on that, are in that file, and each one has a rating next to it.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. That's,
It's broken down in segments.
Yeah. So roads may have more than one listing. When it's a large segment road, they'll break it out into different segments so that you get a more accurate rating of that section.
That makes
Obviously,
sense.
one end of a road could be vastly different than the other end.
okay. All right, yeah, so that way, and so I can sort, and, you know, when people are having questions about when their street needs to be done. I think this is awesome, to have this, you know, that kind of rating by street. You know, it takes the, I guess the squeaky wheel issue out of it. You know, whoever gets their neighbors to complain the most gets their street redone. That shouldn't be the way it should be done. And, you know, with a rating system like this, and we have something objective to point to make these decisions. So yes, I like this, thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Becker. I'm going to reserve my ARPA comments for section 2, not necessarily right now. I like that we did this study. It was a good study. Oh, I'm sorry. Do you want to speak first? Oh, okay.
Keep going, you're
I
fine.
was
But I
okay.
will. I got a few things to say.
I agree with Mr. Becker. It takes the emotion out of it, strictly data and facts. So I'm glad we did that study and actually got more concrete answers. So, thoughts?
Yeah, I'll second both topics that you gentlemen have stated there. And just like the historical perspective too. I know Ms. Ayers is referencing, as this board's been in place, you know, about $900,000 a year, and spending on streets has been phenomenal. That was about 5 times what we previously ever did in Union Township, because I think my first year on, we were about 280,000 was spent on the streets. We barely paved over 1 mile. One, I think it's very awesome for the residents to be able to get 10 times that done, 10 miles of streets paved, but then also having that PCI rating, because again, if you guys recall, when we allocated for that to be procured, the budget for that, the last time that was done was 2013 or 11 or 10 even. I mean, it's over a decade where it just been straight lined, averaged out, and, you know, what good is having it? And then the other interesting thing that came out of this, Mr. Taylor and Ms. Ayers, is up until, as recent until right now, it's always been stated that we've got 131, and then it grew to 132 center line lane miles, and then 133 miles or so when I first came on the board. And I know that we haven't necessarily added 10 miles in the last 4 years it just tells me that the accuracy was completely off. And so we actually know better how many lane miles we actually have. So we're up to 142 miles now. So I don't know, I just feel like that's a big discrepancy. So anyway, I think the PCI study was very good for the taxpayer, and yeah, I'm just excited about the fact that one, we're all in unison on executing something like this for 10 miles for the residents. Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Good deal. Perfect. Any further discussion on that?
Yes.
Please.
Somebody brought it to my attention on social media, and I thought, yeah, this is something we should be looking at. It makes sense. That because of the development we're doing in Round Bottom, which is at the foot of Barg Salt, the concern is that there's going to be additional traffic on Barg Salt. And Barg Salt's not exactly one of the best roads in the township.
It's not.
And Mr. Taylor, can you take a look at that? If there's, I guess, a recommendation, if we need to make any improvements to Bark Salt, you know, with the anticipated traffic that we're going to have
Can
on
I
Bark
address
Salt.
Ms. Ayers, go ahead.
Thank you. We've certainly contemplated that. I think in general, the status of what Bark Salt Run looks like, I think there's probably a bigger project that needs to happen there to help with some of the roadways, that make sure it is as safe as possible. The laneage, the width of the lanes, I think maybe needs to be looked at. So I think that is a bigger project. We've had some initial conversations with the Clermont County engineer about that as a priority moving forward. Now, let's be honest, that's a significant project. It'll probably take a little bit of time to get together, but we've started to have those conversations to say, hey, this is a long-term concern for the township as far as completely looking at what that road looks like, and we'll continue to have those conversations.
Yeah, that could get real expensive.
Exactly, and we want to, we have
What
such a
needs to be
great
done.
partnership with the TID and some of the ODOT folks, and there's some partnerships that we could get into there to look at what the best long-term use of the road is and how to help address the safety as well as some of the traffic concerns and make sure we're addressing it properly. But I'm not gonna say it's gonna be fixed next year. Unfortunately, just slapping some pavement on it, I don't think is gonna be the ultimate resolution. It's taking some time to do the planning, make sure we're safely and adequately addressing all of the needs for now and the future, and then getting our partners on board to help implement that.
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Bark Salt is a fun road to take my Harley down on all the time, so. Okay, good. Moving on to, oh, good. You another one?
Well, yeah, it's very narrow, and I've always thought that if when widening or getting new pavement on it, if it's possible, the ability to have hike or walk type of, but I don't know if the width is ever gonna be there really, but sidewalk, because it is such a stretch that can connect between the park and that area of the township, that I think it would be beneficial for, well down into the future, especially if we ever get to tie into a hike, bike, trail system around that round bottom area. It would be a very good artery to try to get some type of connectivity moving, so it's something to look at, but I know it'd be difficult, obviously, just getting the pavement out there is difficult in the first place without anything major like that, but aspirational, I think, gentlemen. Thank you. That's it, Mr. Chairman.
No problem. Item 2 is ARPA funding updates. Ms. Ayers, can you go on with your presentation?
Yes, sir. As the board is well aware, we've discussed previously, the township received a total of about $5.1 million in ARPA funding. This was made to help in the recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic and help to pay for some of the lost revenue due to the pandemic. We have been working since that time, I believe these were first received in 2022, if I'm not incorrect, and have been working on how to best allocate those funds. Currently, the funds need to be allocated by the end of 2024 and spent by the end of 2026. As we discussed a couple of work sessions ago, that schedule is still in place, but there is some concern, and we are hearing some rumbling out of the Washington lobbying area that there is some potential that money that is not allocated can be clawed back. That is the last thing we would like to see for the township if there's an ability to use it in our community. As you can see here is what we have spent and allocated, leaving us a total of about $1.88 million remaining. I'd like to help utilize some of these funds to accomplish 2 projects, the first of which being the paving, the second of which being Mount Carmel Park. A few meetings ago, we discussed accepting a donation from the apartment complex across from our current Mount Carmel Park for about an acre's worth of land. Currently, Mount Carmel Park has 2 parcels. The western parcel is 1.69 acres. The eastern parcel is 2.891 acres. We received a donation of 1 acre from across the street on the corner of Ravenwood Court and Dameron Lane with the idea we could expand some services at the park. The major concern I have, and Mr. Taylor and I have discussed, is there is no current off-street parking in that area, but also there are few amenities at the park. Playground is going to be repurposed from Klepper. There are some benches, but there are no covered shelters, really no gathering spaces. So it becomes a minimal use park. I think as we look and we put some effort into what it looks like to revitalize Mount Carmel, this would be a really good public project to say, hey, we're going to start investing in expanding those park facilities. We've had some conversations also with the American Legion there about partnering and what that looks like because their property backs up to ours. This, as you can see, a map outlined in blue is what the township owned previously, the western parcel, and then on the top side of the page, and the eastern parcel on the lower part of the page. Outlined in red towards the left is what we received as a donation. So the idea is the main access to the park would remain off of Dameron Lane. Potentially, we could put a parking lot in that red acre, as well as potentially some additional amenities, and then use additional funding to help activate and put in new facilities in the park that would help utilize and increase the usage at this park. So looking at these two projects together, I'd like to work with these two projects to fully expend the remaining 1.88 of remaining unpledged funds. What I'd like to propose is that the board approve $250,000 in funding to improve Mount Carmel Park. That would account for an improved parking lot and amenities. I'd like to take that to the Parks and Recreation Committee and discuss that with them and allow them to put in some recommendations for what would best utilize those funds. But the idea that my priority at least is the parking lot and then whatever amenities the community members would like to see there. That would leave a balance of about $1.63 million to carry out a major paving project like the $2 million we looked at. We could get that 1.63, supplement it with the remaining funds necessary from our normal funding sources from the annual paving program to complete the $2 million. That would be, instead of spending $900,000 out of the 2024 budget, we would be spending the difference between the $2 million and the 1.63, so approximately $300,000, $400,000 in paving. So we'd be saving a little bit of money out of the 2024 budgeted funds, carrying out the $2 million worth of paving, which we believe would get us the majority of our failing roads off the table, and then allow us to put some additional money and amenities into the Mount Carmel Park area.
Great, thank you, Ms. Ayers. So at this time, we'll open the floor for public comments. Any thoughts, comments on ARPA spending money as far as paving and Mount Carmel Park? Okay, seeing none, we'll close public comment. Gentlemen, open up for the board. Mr. Becker.
Yeah, just so I understand, so you're projecting $2 million for paving
Yes.
spending?
And you would have received, I asked Mr. Taylor to go through an exercise to say, hey, if we had our normal $900,000, here's what we would have as a proposed street list, versus if we had $2 million, here's what a proposed street list would look like. Those both were provided to you, and they focus around those 10 miles of failing roads.
Okay. And we have 1.88 million in ARPA money available,
Yes.
Is that right? So we can spend all of the ARPA money on the paving,
You could choose to do so.
which we should probably do before they appoint a Speaker of the House and take it away.
The good thing about both of these projects is I do believe they can be accounted for before the end of the year and spent before the end of '24, which I think puts us in a very good position. These are projects that we can't allocate and spend within the next calendar year and be able to move forward pretty quickly.
I like it. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Logue?
Yeah, I'm supportive of what authority you're asking for, and particularly speaking with Mount Carmel Park. One thing I want to ask that you completely run to the ground, though, however you guys want to execute it and get it done, and if the other board members are supportive of this too. The parking lot that Post 72 has, the American Legion there, it's not always heavily utilized and trafficked, that if we can have some type of partnership with them, that we'd be able to have community parking available there and allow people to access our park system. I like that idea, and I'd be okay with, the $250,000 going more towards additional, whatever it may be, to activate the space, pickleball courts or something you may name it. I know that community right there already has we painted it on the parking lot for them, but I know that Post 72 is building a concrete pickleball court, or at least one, I don't know if it's more than one, in their section of green space right now. So I just think, let's run to ground where there's any potential overlap of good community amenities, because I know that they're very supportive and interested in wanting to be a blessing to the community as well. But if there's some liability or some weird issues, let's
Sure.
run that to ground.
Sure. I have had great conversations with the Post, and they have been very willing to come to the table. We haven't figured out exactly what that looks like, but I think they're supportive of the idea of, can we activate this land more and what could we do together?
Yeah.
I know there's been some social media questions about potentially putting things like a community gathering space or a food truck park on the Roney Lane property. I have some concerns on that property about the parking lot, the pavement status, and
yeah.
the safety of putting people that close to 32.
Yes.
But one of the other ideas would be, and I'd like to vet this through with the Parks and Recreation Committee, is some of this money potentially going towards, maybe it's a community gathering space or some food truck space on this property.
Yeah.
Particularly that other parcel has some pavement already down, and there's some potential there. But I think one of the great things about having that Parks and Recreation Committee is to say, you know, what do you think, and let them make a recommendation about how to best spend that, and
Yeah.
is that the best amenity for it? It's a possibility, but I'd like to have them vet that out, to make sure that that's what we think everyone wants to see.
Yeah, no, I think that's great, so thank you for sharing that approach. Definitely bring the community closer to the decision, so thank you.
I think I'm a lone wolf here. I don't mind spending some of the ARPA money. This isn't a hill I'm gonna die on, but at the same time, I understand some of our roads really need paved, and I don't mind throwing some of that money towards it. But it doesn't really excite me very much, and I don't think this is going to revamp Mount Carmel. I think we could use some of that money to incentivize businesses or help I'm gonna say the Mount Carmel downtown area. I'd prefer it for that, but, I mean, if you two are both in favor of it, that's fine, I'll be in favor of it. Just to allocate nearly $2 million specifically just for paving and for the Mount Carmel Park, I don't know, for example, Veterans Park Playground, my goodness, that's gotta be much more of a priority to me than all of it being used for road paving and or Mount Carmel Park. Just being candid, so, but if you two both want it, and again, it's not a hill I'm gonna die on, so it's fine. But I'm not excited about it, I'm not excited. But if it needs to be done, it makes sense, like how, I would also like to get an assessment of how's our police vehicles, how's our fire vehicles, are those all taken care of? Is there some money we can throw at, because we gotta do something with Mount Carmel, we can't just keep talking about it, and this park is not gonna solve that problem. Paving $2 million worth of roads will make folks happy, but it's not gonna solve the Mount Carmel issue. It's not gonna solve the Veterans Playground issue. Veterans Playground is not good. It's just not. So to throw all the money at basically 80% of paving and 20% for the Mount Carmel Park does not excite me. And it doesn't solve a lot of problems. It does solve a lot, and it's a big deal, I get it, and I don't mind allocating the money for it. I'm not gonna die on the hill, it is what it is, but just letting you both know it doesn't get me excited, and it doesn't revamp the Mount Carmel area just by putting an acre park and some amenities in, so.
I've got an interesting thought on that. The 1.8 million, that's going towards it. That's arguably above and beyond the annual, if we're doing 900,000, is setting a mark on paving. Potentially, there's the 900,000 for next year that would be set aside for paving that can go towards the park initiative that you want to look at. I'm content on letting, that get worked through with the community, and I know we know what the time frame looks like for that at this point. But then also on the point of revitalizing Mount Carmel, I've been working with Ms. Ayers on reaching out to community leaders in Mount Carmel to basically help us facilitate to them what does revitalize Mount Carmel look like to you? And there's a lot of people that are very interested and energized to talk about that. But I think to your point too, so what do we do? Is it revolving, loan program, grant program, you name it, to help draw something in? So I think that's something for them to run to ground a little bit. But then also, you brought up earlier this year about like a 5K and that type of event. I think that's a great spot to be able to launch things out of, is the Mount Carmel area. I also really like how St. Veronica's does their and I've talked to some community members in that area of Old 74 that we should fundamentally be looking at, like shutting down a section of the Old 74 and having all the vendors and all the people that come out for community services and you name it, and have them, sponsored a concert, or something. Kind of like, you've been out to St. Veronica's Festival, not to compete with them, they still have their thing, but then we have something big and nice at another time frame for Mount Carmel, right in that old section. So I think that goes along the lines of a few different things that you're thinking, nothing nailed down right now, but that's where my mind is at. 1.8, from strategically what Ms. Ayers wanting to push on right now so we can get committed before the clawback. But at the same rate, in my mind, I'm thinking, well, what happens to the regular, what happens to the regular budget that typically, if it's 900,000, Is that something for Parks and Service Department to look at? Because I know we have made some significant upgrades recently with, when you gentlemen first came on board, we had to update some of the police cruisers, get them set up on a regular 5-year schedule, right? And then we had some dump trucks and snow trucks that were 20-plus years old that were rusted out and completely destroyed, and we did some capital investments there, so we got the boom mower, we got some good things accomplished when it comes to the capital planning, but that's kind of where my thought's at. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Inspector Jones?
Yeah. Since so this is on the ARPA topic, since we have a little over 2 years to spend all of the money, and the Eastgate Mall project, we still have $680,000 available that we've allocated and not yet spent. Do we anticipate we're going to spend that $680,000 in the next 2 years? If not, then we need to reallocate that.
We should get a report from MSP back in the January or February timeframe, which should outline what that looks like. And we'll have a discussion at that point in time. There's going to be some public infrastructure projects that are potentially using for that money. We can evaluate once we've received the report and have a little bit more information from how the conversations have gone with everyone, to then evaluate and say, okay, do we want to use this for some of the public infrastructure questions from that project? Do we want to look at reallocating it? So I think that question will be better determined after we get that report in the January, February timeframe, which still gives us some time to allocate that.
Yeah, I mean, unless there's some compelling reason to continue investing money in the Eastgate Mall, I just as soon move on and put that money somewhere else. But wait and see. January, February, you said?
Yeah.
That'll be fine. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Logan, anything else?
That's a great point. Happy to get that community feedback on Eastgate Mall. I think there's value added there, but I share your sentiment as far as that. I mean, I think we're only going to do something, big and bold as long as there's a great, public-private combination that delivers what the community wants. And if it's not there in the short term, then I agree with you. And again, there you go, Mr. Dills, another direction, be able to take a focus at something like Veterans Park.
I do have one more follow-up question on that, Mr. Chairman, if I may. So the money has to be allocated by the end of '24. So this Eastgate Mall money that I just brought up, I mean, it is allocated, but say during the year 25 or 26, can it be reallocated to something different? Or does that allocation, if it's going to change, has to be changed before the end of '24?
I believe it can be reallocated, but I would need to get you a more clear answer on that.
Okay, thank you.
But to be clear on that, it is not encumbered.
Yeah, and that's what I was.
We had a pledge up to $1 million. We did not encumber that
Yeah, so
$680,000.
there's a difference between actual purchase orders and things. Like when we pledged that money, we indicated we'd come back each and every purchase. And those purchase orders is what technically encumbers the money.
So we actually, so the 1.88 is not necessarily accurate if we don't spend. So this does not account for the leftover money from Eastgate Mall, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah,
okay.
so it accounts for it
So-
as out.
Well,
It's the most conservative perspective.
well,
Yeah.
I want to just say that, we got a little bit of grief for spending some money on the Mount, or on,
Master plan?
no, what's the,
What?
the Klepper Park?
Klepper Park, yeah,
Which is
Klepper
gonna look awesome and smoking
Oh,
beautiful
gosh,
for the next 20
yeah.
years. But now we're talking about spending $250,000 on Mount Carmel Park, lickety split, no problem. But what's the most popular, most foot traffic park in our township?
Veterans. Yeah, Veterans has to
I
be
mean,
a pinnacle.
so again, I like this. I don't know if I'm a fan of all of the paving. I feel like, if I, as a resident, I would say we could split it up a little bit more and divvy it up a little more. For example, Veterans Park, or something else. Or to be honest, I mean, I don't know, thinking outside the box just to entice businesses. I mean, fair game. Anyone that wants to come into Mount Carmel and buy up development and start, we chip in some of that money to help them to, conduct business and get growing. So, just thoughts, food for thoughts. But again, I'm not gonna die on a hill. If you both want that, then that's fine. It is what it is, so.
If I can make a couple of
Please.
points that might assist you on that one. I don't think there is any one magic wand that's gonna revitalize Mount Carmel and whatever that looks like. So it's a matter of putting in some incremental steps that come together to help make everyone functioning a little bit better. We certainly can look at grant programs, facade things that could help tidy up the streets. But I do think it brings something to the table to say we're bringing up some of these public facilities that help lift the community. And then as we go to the business community and say, look, we're investing in this area, we want you to also invest in this area. And I think it helps to bring that story together. We're going to be organizing this, some letters going out this week, a meeting with us in the Clermont County Chamber of Commerce with the business owners on the 74 corridor. Instead of the township pushing down, hey, this is what we think should happen to that corridor, I really would like to take a holistic approach and say, hey, what does revitalize Mount Carmel mean to those people that are living and operating in that area right now? So being able to go to them and say, hey, come talk to us about what this actually looks like for you, and then talk about, hey, we're willing to make some investments in these public facilities, and create that community environment to say, hey, we want you to come to the table as well. And as we lay this out, if we take the money for paving, it gives us a project that can be accomplished this year. It does save some money out of what we would have otherwise allocated for next year's budget. So it does give you guys the flexibility to say, we would have normally spent $900,000 in paving. If we do this, it would spend about $300,000 to $400,000 less out of the general fund, giving you some funds if we want to come back to the table and say, hey, I want to use that $400,000 that we would have otherwise budgeted and use it at veterans, or make those decisions of what we would like to do. It frees up some of those dollars.
Perfect. Makes sense. I get it. Makes sense.
One other thing, Mr. Chairman and Mr. Becker, you know, and again, we continue to have a very healthy and strong general fund, and I've talked about with Ms. Ayers, and, you know, Mr. Becker, I think I know where your thoughts are on that too, is, you know, how much of the taxpayers' money should the government be sitting on? And I think that goes to the concept of, you've stated out there before about having a plan to strategically retire all the township's debt. So I think that's something I'll still keep in mind as we pursue these projects. I think it's a very exciting trajectory that we can be on. We can deliver enhanced community amenities, but I think at the same rate, I see my colleagues' head nodding up and down. So, I mean, maybe investments in the Veterans Park, strategic plan to retire more debt, we can get a lot accomplished together. So I'm excited about it.
I like retiring debt.
We cannot use those ARPA funds for debt. So
Yeah,
that's the
exactly.
one thing they
Not
tell us
that,
we
but that's-
cannot do.
But I'm just saying from that general
Yeah.
fund,
You can
and,
play.
yeah, yeah,
so,
yep.
Okay, good. Both of you gentlemen good?
Yep.
Great, moving on. Item 3 is not on the agenda, but I'm going to go ahead and make it. If there's anyone that would like public comments in general about anything, now is your chance. Come on up. Okay, last call. Seeing none. Gentlemen, open discussion for the Board of Trustees. Mr. Vice Chair.
I don't have anything additional, Mr. Chairman.
Easy enough. Mr. Lowe?
You know, I don't believe we have anything additional. I see our upcoming events. I'll let you take it away on that.
I'm gonna
Any
look
comments that
here.
you may have?
We got, let's see.
Oh, we have our, tomorrow, 4:30, Interparish Ministries ribbon cutting. That's right there in Mount Carmel. I plan to attend that, go to that. And then October 27th, Friday, is Cincinnati Children's groundbreaking. So those are very exciting projects for the community. Thinking between now and next week, 2 weeks out, anything other on the radar. But no, just tracking both of those events for the community. It's been a very busy few weeks here in Union Township, and it's been very exciting. It's great stuff.
Excellent, excellent. Well, I'll say it, the 2 weeks out, it's election. Ms. Brinkman, good luck. Mr. Lowe, good luck. I think, there's no one for school board, there's no opponents. I think that's it. And obviously, issue 1, issue 2. So I think everyone should know how they vote on issue 1, at least. Okay, so upcoming events. Is there anything else, gentlemen? Okay, perfect. All right, Halloween, I don't like that with beggars. Halloween night in the township is October 31st, of course, 6 to 8 p.m. roughly. And words of wisdom, make sure you eat about half your kids' candy, Mr. Becker, just to make sure it's safe, And Election Day is November 7th. Non-emergency services will be closed for the township on November 10th in honor of Veterans Day. The Board of Trustees' next business meeting will be right here in this room on November 14th, Tuesday at 6 p.m. Is that it, gentlemen? Last call?
Yeah, one thing, Mr. Chairman. Did you gentlemen see the message that came in about the wrong Union Township? So I think that happens frequent enough,
saw that,
but,
yeah.
but it instantly made me think about your comment about a market brand study for, again, community engagement as far as what would be alternative name, because one, staff has to go through that. We often get pegged as the only Union Township when there's multiple.
20+. Did we finally officially get our website going? Not website,
The
sorry.
redirect?
They're working to acquire the website, should be here pretty soon.
Great, and so that'll change, we can change our email to that as well, right? Be much cleaner, perfect. Last call.
Yeah, on the topic of emails coming in, did you two get the one about proposing that we establish the city of Eastgate, make it a municipality?
I saw it, yes, I saw it.
I didn't even bother responding.
I saw it.
I won't repeat what I was thinking.
The next thing we need is, if you're a municipality, if you're a city, doesn't everybody get a city tax as well? Am I correct? Is that how it works?
Municipality means
Yeah.
a lot more in
Yeah.
expenses, a lot more staff, a lot
we're
more
good. We're good.
bureaucracy, a lot more taxes, a lot more of everything we hate.
The reason why I live in the city, so.
I was just championing a couple of legislators at the state level as far as how efficient and effective township government is. The fact that 80% of Ohio's population lives in townships, and look at us, look around. We got 50,000 residents, as well as 125,000 people in here during the workday. And you can look at a city like Milford and just the different authorities and all the additional resources that they're handed. But I'm proud of the fact of how efficient and effective township government is, and it's very accountable. There's 3 of us to make a decision and get something done, and I firmly believe in that system for Ohio. And there needs to be more support for the townships, and we're very unique. You put us on a list of the largest cities in Ohio, and we're the top 15 or so we start to fall in, and that's very unique from a township perspective. So, gotta be smart and diligent about what we do. But, well, thank you.
Gentlemen, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Campbell, roll call.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Logue?
Yes.
Mr. Dills?
Yes,
We're adjourned at 6:37 PM.
40 minutes, not bad.
Thank you.